I always say that the world of today is so different from what it used to be. I'm sure if you took a time machine and went back to 1950, you'd be surprised by the difference. How different were the social dynamics and the female-male relationship? Sure, the time had its issues, but the dynamics weren't as mad as they are right now. There's a reason why men have stopped approaching women. Nowadays, you don't see it happening as much as it used to. There was a time in the 1950s and before when you had no choice but to do a cold approach. If you liked a girl, you had to build the guts to go talk to her and get to know her. There was no cell phone, no internet, no social media, and nothing. There was a time when you had to physically approach a woman or go to her father. And these women mostly resided with you in your town. Communities were small. It wasn't like a dating site where you could see hundreds of women. Women didn't have unlimited options back then. She only had the guys in her community to pick from. It was a simpler time back then, and if we know anything about women's nature, the limited options actually made for a more balanced society. In this time, more men would also approach women because there was no guarantee he'd ever see her again, so he didn't want to miss out on a woman he liked. But then the dynamics changed and men stopped approaching women altogether. The thing is now, there's a lot of risk involved. The risk-to-reward ratio is too much and most men have to stand there and think hard for a long while before deciding whether they want to approach her or not. We have to look at the consequence of making that decision. The same way most men have to decide before marriage and commit whether they stand to gain anything or not, because most marriages seem to be ending in divorce these days. The same thing applies to approaching. Women have made the thing so risky and unrewarding that it isn't even worth it anymore. Even without all these added factors, there were a ton of things for men to fear about, like getting rejected and humiliated by a woman. A man risked being made fun of or being labeled a creep. If he's still approaching, that means he thinks the outcome will be worth it. But when we live in a society where the average male is considered to be a rapist and women don't even bat an eyelash before calling a man a predator and a harasser, the average man has no choice but to stop approaching. Talking to women these days has aesthetic criteria. It depends on how good you look. If you, as an average-looking guy, go up to her and talk to her without being disrespectful or coming off as creepy, she will straight up make a fool out of the guy. She will most probably use him for drinks, and then later spin the narrative and call him a creep. Then she will parade it around on social media for laughs and attention. I'm sitting here looking at countless posts and videos like these wondering why would I ever want to approach a woman these days when stuff like this is happening all around. I think men need to understand that we all get different treatment from women. I want you guys to think about status and how perceived value makes people treat others a little differently. Think about the times when you were approached by a homeless person who looked dirty and you immediately got defensive. The same applies to women where they judge based on how you look from the get-go. Before, women didn't enjoy this extended security to make judgments and choose the gathering of men they affiliate themselves with. Now women are always surrounded by white knights ready to do her bidding, and she is safe. So she can publicly humiliate a man just for talking to her. Looking deeper, it's safe to assume that modern women no longer respect the average man. If a woman is so disrespectful to the average man, do you think she would do the same thing to Jeff Bezos, who's a billionaire and possesses an exceptional amount of authority and status? Women would never dare to talk down or humiliate a man who is clearly better than she could ever be. As you can see, it all boils down to a man's status and his perceived value based on how he looks and how rich he is. Women will treat men differently based on this status. If she doesn't see that the man is better than her, then she will treat him like garbage. If she perceives that another man is better than her current man, she will treat him with more respect and might also jump ship. Many people have had wives and girlfriends like that just waiting for the opportunity to climb the status ladder. They didn't have an ounce of loyalty. If you want to know everything about women, consider a woman being approached by her boss versus her janitor. Which one of them do you think stand a better chance of not being disrespected? If they were to approach her, the boss stands a better chance of actually securing a date with her. So that's enough for us to conclude that women don't care about the average man at all. Most men today have caught on to that and decided to not talk to women at all. That's why dating percentages are going down severely. Majority of men are seeing how women are treating other men. They hear about their bad experiences and they are deciding to walk away. Women's attitudes towards men are getting worse and worse, and they are no longer up for this biz. Men are seeing that every time they approach women, they are in for a negative experience. It's a no-reward experience where they only risk their reputation and possibly their freedom. When men have the police called on them just because they said hi to a woman, men start wondering why they would ever approach a woman. Why would men risk all that when they get absolutely nothing in return? This is the state of the world today. When before the 90s women weren't so crazy and out of order, now it's just insanity. I think we can all agree that the attitude of modern women towards men is straight up insanity. I mean, if all people need to do is take one look at you and decide you're not approachable, that means you're in the wrong. Women today walk around like they have something stuck up their rear ends. I know you've had an experience where you approached a woman and talked to her, and she made the ugliest face you'd ever seen in your life. The art of being polite and looking pleasant is an art that's lost on the modern woman. Most of them walk around with a resting dish face, and it scares men away or turns them off. Men will never approach a woman that looks like she doesn't want anyone talking to her or being near her unless he's pulling up in a Ferrari and wearing a Rolex. Do not approach these types of women. Even if you try to tell them that being polite and carrying a smile is not a bad thing, you're labeled a woman hater. So if we are getting bombarded by insults from all ends, why would we ever want to play the dating game? It's just better to quit. The male equivalent of women like these are guys that always look angry and violent. People are scared to talk to him because he can burst out anytime and start fighting. No one wants to talk to him. A cold woman with a strained and ugly face swaggering is very similar to a guy like this. No one in their sane mind would ever want to talk to her. Most men use these triggers to approach the women they like. But if she's looking closed and cold, the man will assume that she's not interested in her and he will leave. That's how important body language and smiling is. There's really no rest for men anyways. Even when a man stops approaching women and stops talking to women, they label him an incel and woman hater. They start asking him why he has stopped talking to women. When it's so obvious that if you're giving signals that you aren't interested, no one would ever want to talk to you. The choice is yours, ladies. Men have decided that relationships aren't worth it. Men have been told all kinds of insulting things. Oh, you're too short, you're too broke, your ex and I and yours. And on and on. And men are just sick and tired of this biz. I don't talk to broke guys. You're ugly. Our lives are already hard, and women have decided to take their standards to the sky because all of them want a 1% man. All men want Victoria's Secret models as their girlfriends, but we don't start acting like we can all have that because reality is always different. If that wasn't enough, women are cheating on men more than ever, and they are treating men worse and worse as time passes. If she only has eyes for the Chads and Alphas, then what's the point for me? I'll just be going my own way. That's how the world is. The only good news is that many male spaces like this channel have popped up. We are spreading the word around to tell other guys that the game is rigged and the only solution is to quit it. When the majority of the men will quit, women will start coming back to their senses. When these women start growing up and realize that no one wants to marry them anymore, they will realize their wrongs. Meanwhile, we will stay right where we are, free and peaceful. All quit away from the bickering of our wives and exes. We'll be out there focusing on our careers and our lives. Men who want to approach women and still date them have more power over you, but I'm personally done with the entire thing. I won't risk being thrown in jail or being publicly humiliated and disrespected and falsely accused for something that I'm not. That's just how it is. If all I wanted is sex, sex is cheap. If all women are good for is sex, and they have zero loyalty and zero respect, then I will say the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I'd rather stay away from all of it. If you are part of this movement, leave a like and comment. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I want to know how long you've been MGTOW. That's it, and have a nice day. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.